Well, good afternoon. Thank you for coming today. We are gathered on the territory of the signatories of Treaty 7, and I acknowledge the Métis people who share a deep connection with this land. The UCP's ongoing war on Alberta healthcare is driving Alberta doctors out of the province and making it harder for families to access the care they need. This is true here in Calgary, and nowhere is it more true than for my constituents in Lethbridge. Now, according to a quarterly update from the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta, and just recently posted, Alberta has lost a net total of 188 registered physicians in the past 3 months. This is unacceptable. The South Zone has had a net loss of 31 doctors since last year, and Lethbridge has 13 fewer doctors registered in the last 3 months alone. The South Zone has 62 fewer doctors than they did in 2019. Those are actually staggering numbers, and they show that a bad situation is growing worse with every passing month under the UCP. 43,000 Lethbridge residents cannot find a family doctor, and the pool of doctors is only getting smaller. There are no family medicine clinics accepting new patients. There are no walk-in options. The Minister of Health, even just this week, even just yesterday, tried to spin that doctors are coming to Alberta, that his plans and the UCP plans are working. Yesterday, he had the audacity to stand in the legislature and gloat about hiring a couple of new doctors for Lethbridge with a handful more in process. They will even try to say that that's the problem being solved, but they aren't even making up for what's being lost in the past 3 months alone. Now, the UCP tore up the doctors' contract, attacked them in the media, on social media, and in the legislature. Even today, the UCP has a law that allows the Minister of Health to tear up any new contract on a whim. Who would want to work under these conditions, expand a practice, move here to start a family? Doctors who speak up for public health care, who have very serious concerns about COVID-19, who have serious concerns about surgical backlogs, about emergency times, wait times, are ridiculed by government staffers and cabinet ministers. The UCP went so far as to fire Dr. Verna Yu from her role as president of Alberta Health Services. This was done to clear a path for mass privatization in healthcare, a move to American-style healthcare where those with the deepest pockets get front-of-the-line service and everyone else suffers. Now, a few weeks ago, we revealed that a record number of doctors had left the province in 2021. Alberta families are the ones left to suffer as a result. Expectant mothers are being forced to drive hundreds of kilometers to give birth. People who need access to an emergency room and do not know when they will be seen, or if the ER will even be open when they need it. Right now, there are 20 communities with hospitals closed or partially closed. In Hardisty, the emergency room has been closed for more than a year. The UCP must stop throwing the health system into further chaos. We need a real strategy to recruit doctors from across Canada and all over the world, and to train doctors right here in Alberta. We need a government focused on solutions. So I'm here today to say that Alberta's NDP will do better. For one, when we guarantee support for public health care, we mean it. We respect public health care and those who work in it. We will restore trust with doctors. We will put forward a real strategy to recruit doctors and offer other healthcare professionals to this province. We will build new hospitals where they are needed. We will take major steps to prevent emergency rooms closures, and we will bring forward measures to properly address the mental health care crisis in this province. Those are the things that an Alberta NDP government would run on. Make no mistake, healthcare is on the ballot in the next election, and that's especially the case in southern Alberta and in Lethbridge. The fate of public healthcare relies on removing the UCP from office. Just Look at what's coming up, perhaps within the hour. When asked a few days ago about rumors of ophthalmology services leaving the Rockview Hospital to be privatized, the health minister could not deny it, and it looks like he will be providing more details this afternoon. As a result of these UCP decisions, public dollars will be funneled over to private, for-profit clinics, further damaging our public healthcare system. The UCP have already done more than enough damage to healthcare, but it seems they are hell-bent on throwing it into further chaos. So I call on them today to stop. Albertans do not support private healthcare. And if the government disagrees, I say fine, put healthcare on the ballot in the next election. My constituents in Lethbridge, 43,000 of whom do not have access to a family doctor, and all Albertans for that matter, cannot bear further UCP chaos in our healthcare system right now. Thank you, and I'll be happy to take your questions.
Okay, we'll now open up to questions on the line. Just a reminder, if you're joining by Zoom, to use the raise hand function, and if you're joining by phone, to press *9. We'll go to our first question. Go ahead, Sarah, your line is open.
Well, thank you. So I'm just wondering, with the announcement that's coming just in about half an hour here with addressing surgical times, I know there are feelings that will be set towards privatization. I'm just wondering, when it comes to surgical wait times, what would be a better option to address those lengthy times?
Well, first of all, surgeries require physicians to perform those surgeries. And so attracting and retaining physicians of all sorts, whether it's in family medicine or various specialties, has got to be the priority. We have lost a net total of 188 registered physicians in the past 3 months. And so it's very clear to me that the UCP went to war with doctors before the pandemic. They continued that war during the pandemic, and as we exit the pandemic, there is no indication that they want to restore respect for physicians and other healthcare professionals and restore respect for Alberta patients who need the healthcare system. So it has got to start with recruiting physicians to work in the public healthcare system. Of course, the solution is not to waste money on giving it away to private for-profit clinics. The solution here is to ensure that we have a well-functioning public healthcare system that is there for every person when they need it. I would suggest that starts with physician availability, and what I'm here to say today is that it is only getting worse, particularly in the community of Lethbridge, where the government is now trying to spin a fairy tale, an absolute web of falsehoods that things are getting better, when in fact, month by month by month, it is getting steadily worse, and we are now up to some 6 fewer doctors than we had in 2019.
Did you have a follow-up, Sarah?
No, thank you.
Okay, we'll go to our next caller.
Yeah, hi, thanks for taking my questions. In the same report from the CPSA, it notes a net increase of year over year or year to year comparison. I'm wondering, I'm sure that will be a line that that officials will use. What's your reaction to that? The fact that there's a net year over year increase in physicians?
Well, the fact of the matter is that Lethbridge has 62 fewer doctors than we did in 2019. So if you fall into a hole and there's 10 ladder rungs and you come up 1 ladder rung, that is not a success. We still do not have any walk-in capacity. There's 43,000 people without a doctor. We do not have any physicians accepting new patients. So, you know, this is just, sure, there's a slight increase, but the extent to which the chaos has been created within the public healthcare system, the gravity of the war on doctors by the UCP, the problems that it has created, and in particular in the South Zone, where that situation is getting worse. There may be some other jurisdictions where they're able to attract more, but that is not the case in the South Zone, and the problem is only getting worse.
Did you have a follow-up, Adam?
Yeah, the Canadian Medical Association put out a survey last month noting that nearly half of doctors were considering reducing their work in clinics in the next 2 years because of pandemic burnout. I know you've said a lot about the changes to what were proposed changes to the doctors' contracts. What role, to your mind, does the pandemic play in this? And as a tag on to that, what role can government have with regards to pandemic pressures that doctors have had to face for the past 2 years?
Well, there's no question that the UCP went into the pandemic at war with doctors and other healthcare professionals, threatening wage rollbacks and all kinds of cuts and privatization within the healthcare system. They continued that war on healthcare through the pandemic. So there's no question that exiting the pandemic, healthcare professionals are feeling very burnt out, given the extent to which they have been treated with monumental disrespect by this government. And so in order to restore that respect for healthcare professionals and for the patients who use our healthcare system, we need to make sure that we stop the chaos. That is the first thing. People are feeling burnt out, whether they're physicians or other frontline healthcare workers, because people are leaving Alberta, or they are leaving those professions, or they are taking fewer hours because there were fewer and fewer of them during this once-in-a-century healthcare, public health emergency. So, really it comes down to restoring that respect for frontline healthcare workers and ultimately restoring the respect that comes from government that Albertans share for our healthcare system more broadly.
Okay, we'll go to our next caller.
Hi, yes, thank you for taking my question. Referring specifically to the surgical wait times, I'm sure you've heard the government object to how you characterize the use of chartered facilities as privatization. This is still publicly funded, so if you could just tell us why do you still think it qualifies as privatization, and why don't you think this approach will work? And sorry, I asked in English, but if you can answer in French, that would be great.
Est-ce que vous pouvez demander en français?
Oui, tout à fait. Donc, je suis sûre que vous avez entendu que le gouvernement s'objecte au fait qu'on caractérise comme de la privatisation du système de santé l'approche de confier plus de chirurgie à des établissements gérés par le privé, puisque c'est encore des chirurgies qui sont financées par le public. Alors, qu'est-ce que vous avez à répondre à ça? Et pourquoi vous ne pensez pas que c'est la meilleure approche pour réduire les temps d'attente?
Alors nous savons, il y a beaucoup d'évidence que les chirurgies qui sont faites par les compagnies privées sont en fait plus chères que si le système public font ces chirurgies-là. Alors, c'est numéro un, ça coûte plus cher, il y a toujours des profits. Et dans le système public, on peut garder ces profits-là et les réinvestir dans le système public pour que tout le monde puisse réaliser les bénéfices d'un système de santé qui est public. Alors, c'est numéro un. Et puis numéro deux, personne n'a confiance en ce gouvernement-là pour protéger notre système de santé publique.
Did you have a follow-up?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, we'll do one more quick pass for questions. And seeing none, that's all for today.
Thank you.
Much for watching, and to learn more, check out albertasfuture.ca.